Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of Policy in Wonderland. I'm your host, Ep4 Mira. You can call me Evie. In Policy in Wonderland, just like Alice, we are going to explore the wonderful world of insurance, insurtech, and everything that's connected to this amazing ecosystem. In Policy in Wonderland, you will meet startups from all over the world, brokers, insurance agents, key figures, and more. So without further ado, I want to invite my guest to join me as we go down to the rabbit hole, and this time to the West Coast, California, right? Orange County?
Yep.
Great.
Yeah,
So,
California.
hello, Brett, AKA Broker Brett. How are you doing today?
Doing good. No, thank you so much for having me. I've had the
Of
pleasure and
course.
honor of interviewing a couple of people across the ocean, but it's really fun to be in the guest seat, from another country. And
Nice.
the
And
folks listening won't know. Oh, sorry.
we promised to do a cheers in the beginning of the conversation after we have fire chat right now. So yeah, cheers to everyone. Happy New Year, almost. So yeah, go ahead. So Brett,
Oh, no, you're good. Yeah, before we hit record, we found out that we're both drinking tea across the world. I think it's noon for me, about 10 p.m. for Evie. And the other little factoid in the background, last week we were supposed to record, but unfortunately Evie was a little under the weather. So we just
yeah,
chatted for a bit. And I was already able to introduce a friend in the States, Curtis Goldsborough. So it's just so fun to do business across the world, for a shared passion that's strange and not like most regular jobs, I would say.
I must say that your motivation and even curiosity to the insurance or to the insurtech is very admired. So once you connect me to Curtis, um, it was very professional. Is not the business, and it's not like okay, I'm looking for text or I want to sound another ideas. No, it was one of the best contact that I had in last year, I think, in the past year. So yeah, thank you for that.
That's awesome. No, of
Uh,
course. Yeah.
but before that, um, can you give us a brief introduction about you? Who is Brett? Who is
Yeah,
Broker Brett?
absolutely. Who's causing us trouble? Um, I really enjoy the space. I spotted insurance when I was doing moving and storage sales, logistics sales, and the idea of getting paid every year, the idea of not having to do collections, like literally go sit in a lobby with an invoice when somebody hadn't paid. I love my moving crews. I love dropping off Gatorades and tacos, but not having to deal with people setting off like fire extinguishers for no reason or like etching stuff in an elevator every so often. I was like, how do I get into this magical industry? And like so many insurtechs, I thought it was gonna be easy. I thought the elders, were asleep at the wheel. I'm gonna come in there, run circles around everybody, and it's very challenging. It's very interesting. It's very nuanced. You can make a lot of great money, and you can genuinely help people. I've loved it. I was listening to a couple of pods ahead of time. Helen mentioned it. Just a lot of great people in insurance too. So it's been some of the most nice, ambitious people I've met. And since then, I got my own agency tools through insurtechs early on. So that's how I got close to that community. Insurance Nerds has been an awesome platform where I've written. I think I recorded over 100 podcasts with founders. I'm honored to be on the board now. That got me really involved in the weeds. Eventually, I found my way to Smart Choice, which has helped me out personally with carrier access. And then they brought me into territory manager. I've recruited 30 plus agents there.
What is
Phenomenal group to help people get off the ground.
Smart choice? Just in a
Like
brief.
a carrier access partner.
Mhm.
Sometimes in the states, the minimum requirements to work with admitted national carriers can be pretty high. So we help, basically anybody get in the game. It's the Pareto principle. 20% of our agents are going to write 80% of the business, but they help me get going, and now I get to help other property casualty agents. And then kind of through the ping pong of all that, I actually have had a chance to advise a couple startups too, which has been awesome. I've thoroughly loved it. It's a chance to take my like first person sales experience, and lend that time and talent, to occasionally earn some equity. It's just really cool to be a part of, growing these new projects.
Be involved like in the innovation and to creating, I don't know if to say new world, but a better world for insurance, I think.
It's interesting. In the 2000s, I helped a data visualization startup. I had no clue how VC worked. I had no clue how startups worked. I was adding like Kleiner Perkins on Twitter, just trying to be friends with these like monumental VC firms. Yeah, I had no clue, but it was great, and
Yeah, you are
I
doing a great
saw
job. By the way, you are doing a great job on the social.
it's fun. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I try to keep it light, make other people look good. I've got ADD, man. It's good to have outlets like that just to kind of yeah, have fun, keep moving the puck forward. But that kind of gave me a taste at startups in the 2000s. Then when I got to insurance, they were like, insurtech is coming, insurtech is coming. And to me, it's an inevitability. Usually I think the best technology wins the war. That was my initial impression of things. And plus they were welcoming and said, hey, write business through us. But as I got more involved, I saw that kind of like old hand knowledge too. And the people have been around forever, like myself being ignorant. I would start in California, Texas, and Florida, New York. If I was an insurtech, though, I wouldn't know those are catastrophic states and some really hard regulatory bodies, and I should get some boring middle America states, as well. Um, so this hand in hand, I think you need both in our game, and I think it's unique and challenging and fun, in an ever-changing landscape.
I have a stern question. What superpower would best describe an insurance agent or
Mm.
superhero?
So I would say it's twofold, and I'm 38, so I kind of grew up around the baby boomers, and I joke around about trying to be Paul Bunyan with a steam powered axe. So historically, grinding, knowing your policy form, all that's still true. Networking. I think former athletes are pretty good at just strapping the helmet on and going downhill,
Mhm.
and I think that's important in every sales organization.
There is a lot
But
of
the
sport
difference,
athletes. Sorry,
yeah.
there is a lot of sport athletes that becoming an insurance agent, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, totally. And I think there's still like an analog one-to-one, still so powerful to have those skills.
Mhm.
But I have younger agent friends that are scraping contractor databases, automating marketing, doing drip campaigns, doing cool tools that they're amplifying their own time and talent and knowledge in a way that's just foreign to the grinders. So I think you need that analog skill set, handshake, eye contact, ask for the order. But I think there are people coming up behind me or my peers that have done such cool things with tools and automation that are so intelligent, But I think you should have that firsthand experience first, I think, to like understand, what you're trying to amplify, what you need, what data you're collecting, how hard closing a deal is. Asking somebody for money is entirely different than getting support,
Mhm.
emotionally for a project. Yeah. So
Well, you said something right now that is the most important thing that I think a lot of, I don't know if insurance agent, but even insurtech or anyone that get into this world in the first place, that it's very hard to collect money in insurance because you sell nothing. You sell magic.
mm,
I call it you sell magic. And after that, you need to serve him once you have a claim.
mm-hmm,
And you need a special bond with your customer, with your potential customer, to create a trust in, from the first call. I think
mm-hmm.
you especially know that as a salesperson, right? So how it was in your beginning, in your first days as an insurance agent.
So I got licensed 10 years ago, and I was actually a moving and storage salesman in
Yeah.
downtown LA. And as much as I joke about not really having like mentors and stuff, I got to sell with my dad, who was a top salesman for the company 22 out of 30 years. I got to learn from the CEO and take over his territory. I'm
Mm.
holding up my like LA area chamber of commerce, like ambassador of the year 2014.
Wow. Nice.
So like
Cool.
I came into insurance having cut my teeth and not super excelled, but at least hung in there in a tough market in a competitive landscape against people who are 20 years older than me. Um, I worked in restaurants. Trying to think what else would have been good background. We played a lot of sports. We're used to being uncomfortable. Um, I graduated college in 2009. I worked construction for a year. And when that slowed down, I got into copier sales and we're banging doors, collecting cards. 2 hours of cold calls in the morning. My training was one piece of paper, a stack of business cards, and like start calling. And I was lucky my friend Andrew McVanderham let me go out with him. And we're collecting 30 cards in the middle of Irvine trying to get thrown out of high rises. My hands were literally like shaking the first time you're like walking past security guards and in these buildings. So a lot of that was just sort of pushing it down. I grew up at that moving company, and every summer I would call through the book of lists, and I still should do this, but it was the top law firms, top accounting firms, top whatever, and just try to get a hold of their operations people, their office managers, to give them our moving company's contact info in case they needed to, tear down some cubicles and rebuild them. So I mean, I've grown up on the phones, grew up around the service industry. It's fun, it's all a chase for me to autonomy and to work on cool things with people I like. That's the motivating factor, you know.
And right now you are dealing with a lot of insurtech. You are getting familiar with a lot of insurtech, right? But
No,
what?
I almost pay attention to CPG and fintech more.
Okay.
And I try to work on my own agency. I actually, it's funny to say it in terms of the zeitgeist of what's going on specifically with insurtech. I'm actually behind more than people would think sometimes, because I'm trying to gather other experiences to bring to my own kind of horses, quote unquote.
So this is exactly what I wanted to ask, because you're not like an insurtech person, but you are the hardcore of insurance agent. What are the main functional needs of agents? Because there is a lot of insurtech, there is a lot of fintech that come from with the best idea, with the best solution, but sometimes there is no any problem to solve with this terrific tech. But how you see that from your point of view?
The other day a light bulb turned on. So I wasn't always the best student. So I was psychology in community college and then comparative religions from a bachelor's at a public school, 20-person major, 20-person minor at a 35,000 person public school. It was awesome. The other day a light bulb turned on. It's like publicly traded companies know how to create demand, or they understand the demand, and then they have the product to deliver, and they have consistently attainable results and outcomes. My friend Judson Norden, I'm stealing it from him. You should have 2 or 3 verticals you're servicing so your legs can't get taken out from you by one. You should know how to meet those needs, meet those consistent needs consistently, and be a part of those communities and organizations. One of my great friends, he is the go-to insurance agent for the arborists, California Arborists Association, so all the tree trimmers. He takes care of them, and he does a great job in personal lines as well. Where it can get tricky is one of the guys I worked with in moving and storage. He was great at working with printers, like print shops in the 80s and 90s. But then they came up with an association product and it knocked him out overnight because his whole book was print shops. And then they got this collective buying power policy and it took him out. So it's get rich in your niche, but it's hard to start there because you don't know what your niche will be. So I've started leaning towards technology companies. And to keep the queue full, I want to work on blue collar technology companies like cable pullers and MSPs as well, because it can't all be venture backed startups. It can't all be whales that you're going to compete with the big boys. And I think small ball will be redundancy and it'll get me better for the bigger opportunities. So that's how I'm thinking about it. But like everybody else, I've written everything. I've slowed myself down. I have stuff that I'm super unsure about. But you slowly whittle your way towards your lane that will be success. And to go back to your point, like, what do agents need? I don't think it's always as obvious as I don't think it's always as obvious as like a specific tool. And I think sometimes, oh yeah, we have a little cat.
Oh,
You got to have things that are complementary to your customers, but not
it's like
necessarily
the
insurance
cat
tools.
without the cat without the head. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
I think sometimes we can get so insurance centric, we forget to add complementary services and tech and other things that'll be beneficial for our clients. So I think putting ourselves in their shoes in their world. Like if I was selling
It's like James
yeah,
Bond movie with the cat, and I think
yeah,
it's Goldfinger.
yeah,
Great.
I have to forgive my messy room. Get a little too insurance centric and forget about the needs of our customers. Like I always say, if I was selling to restaurants, I would give away cut gloves for free. I would give away, I'm trying to think what else would be helpful for a restaurant, but I put myself in the customer's shoes and do branded things for my agency that benefit them.
Nice.
And then small things like Indio, Broker Buddha, there's some cool tools today that make it where people aren't filling out like paper PDFs anymore. That's helpful. you just got to put yourself in the customer's shoes. What's going to make their life easier, what's going to be fluid for them to experience. Yeah.
Yeah, this is important lesson because we forgot that sometimes to be in the customer shoes, because
Yeah.
we think
That's,
we
I
know the
mean,
best sometimes, and we just wing the customer or wing the process.
mhm. My best friend owns a big machine shop, and he put it simply to me years ago. He's like, I want to pay the least amount as possible. I want to make sure insurance will do what it's supposed to do. I think it's gonna do. That's all he cares about.
Hmm.
And my job is to be the protector, help preserve that business, help preserve their wealth, their legacy. And as I say that, I haven't snuck into that company. They had an agent that was bringing them sandwiches for years, and then they got bought by private equity. And I like had a couple shots on goal, but even my own best friend's family, I couldn't quite get into that like 200-person machine shop. It's a challenging game. Yeah.
So it's a very challenging game. Would you recommend to someone to work in insurance? The younger people, all they say that insurance is very boring and is not interesting and so on. Would you recommend to
Yeah.
someone to work in insurance, and why?
So you
Of
only know
course.
what you know. And I grew up in LA County, edge of LA County, kind of a blue collar area where, there's a longshoreman, there's a plumber, there's a guy who
Mhm.
worked at a bank, there's a guy who worked for Boeing, there's, I think, an engineer. And then I moved to North Orange County. My dad's a salesman. A lot of his buddies are salesmen. There's a lot of small business owners in Yorba Linda, which is a nicer suburb next to mine. So I think sales, I think small business is the way out. I didn't know computer programmers. I had one friend whose dad was a computer programmer. In my 20s was the first time I was really like brought around the startup scene. And I did try to create a pickup basketball website like a little bit earlier than that called Hoop Connects.
Okay.
And I was hoping to like help my friends figure out where they're playing pickup basketball. I thought you could also facilitate leagues for cities and colleges. And then you have like an advertising base everybody'd want, but we didn't know what we were doing. Time ran out. I had to go get a job. Um, yeah, so sales, small business. If I could go back, like, maybe I'd be a programmer, maybe I'd pick up some technical skills. I mean, that seems very advantageous for today, but I've enjoyed, you know, seeing a bunch of companies. I've enjoyed setting up my small business. I think if your wheels turn quite a bit, insurance is a fun industry to get in because it's always a little different. You're always assessing risks. The annuity side's awesome. You can make a lot of money, and I think you can generally help people. I mean, that's not every industry. I've sold copiers. My brother sells cars. I've sold logistics. All really cool experiences, all beneficial. But I've never been in another industry where I'm like texting my friends at night
Your
about
brother, your
concepts and
brother sell
ideas.
cars. Sorry, your
Uh huh.
brother sell cars, or is insurance agent on and personal?
No, he works. He's worked at automotive dealerships the
Ah,
past
okay,
6 or 7 years.
okay.
Phenomenal salesman, better salesman than I am. Um, yeah, he's an awesome dude. But I love our industry and like literally making friends all over the world about it, trying to solve problems cross borders. And it was one of the other pods I kind of listened to a couple, and I'm honored to come on after David and Stacy. Larry Lipkin's a great guy. Lipman's a great guy too, and got shout out. Elad and
Yeah.
Faye. Um, this is cool, man. It's global problem solving, global customer base. It's meeting human needs. It's keeping the wheels of society turning. Like it's easy to be an enthusiast.
This is a big industry all over the world,
Yeah.
but it feels like sometimes like a small town,
Mm-hmm.
especially
Mm-hmm.
right now with all the insurtechs, with all the problems are pretty the same in the US, in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
in Israel, Asia, and so on. So it really makes a good connections as we are doing right now, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of interesting, not just interesting people, but interesting materials. Like you have the commercial lines you can handle with cyber, of course. You can handle with a small medium business. Personal lines you can. Right now, you have all the electronical vehicle. There is a lot of problems each and every day that need thinking all the time outside of the box,
Mm-hmm.
and people sometimes don't realize it, and especially from the outside.
Yeah, and it's going to evolve too. For instance, during COVID, prior to COVID, I believe like 40% of claims were workers' comp or like workplace injuries, and then during COVID, it switched over to cyber was the biggest issue. So it's going to be never ending. It's going to be evolving. Any new market, like I try to insure cannabis companies in the US. That's been super fascinating to watch. And it was actually much more similar to insuring a regular small business than other coverages than you'd think. But they didn't cover crime at first because it was a lot of cash and it wasn't federally regulated. So that was the only nuance. Um, but yeah, you get to grow with growth markets, you get to adapt, you get to help small businesses, you get to help large companies. It's
Right
really
now,
cool.
cannabis is legalized all over the US? No,
I would say most states,
really.
maybe medical, a lot of states recreational, and there's still a handful of states where it's not legal and that's not legal federally. So it gets really interesting where a lot of the banking has to go through Canada
Mhm.
currently. Um, that's kind of one of the cool things about the states, 50 different test kitchens, 50 different departments of insurance. I actually helped Beneo get licensed in all 50 states. I got myself licensed in all 50 states
Wow.
before handing it off to a consultant. That was its own fun adventure, calling like the Alabama Department of Insurance, and people were really nice. That was one of the hacks. If anybody is trying to get licensed, just call the people on the phone and they'll help you out. They're really great. There's stuff that should take a week, but you call somebody you're nice and they'll take care of it for you. Yeah.
You said something about cyber and
Yeah.
why there is a problem, from my knowledge, that insurance agents have very hard, uh, they are struggle to sell insurance, cyber insurance.
Hmm.
And maybe
Well,
it's about education, but yeah, go ahead.
no, it was super interesting. I apologize for jumping in. I haven't been
That's
as
okay.
directly proactive on cyber as I was before COVID, ironically.
Hmm.
And I would cold call these large companies. Hey, do you have cyber insurance? Can I quote it for you? Can I quote it? They're like, oh, we'll talk to our broker. Or, you talk to the IT guy and they would get offended. They're like, no, we got this covered. We're fine. We don't need it. So I think it's just been an evolution of knowing that the bad players, the mal players are going to be ahead of us. We're going to do our best, but we're going to need risk mitigation strategies, recovery strategies. Um, and I think there's been enough, public fallout, cities that have been ransomware, whatever else, where people are just aware now this is a real threat. Um, Going back to the evolution of things, you just have to keep learning and evolving. I think that's one of the great things about our industry too. I'm 38. I feel like there's some holes in my game, and I better tool up now. It's easier now than when I'm 58. And I hope I'm still tooling up at 58. But I think it'll be an industry I can grow with.
What you would recommend to insurance agent to sell products that till now he wouldn't sell or didn't sell, such as cyber? How to be involved to sell a new product? You know what? This is the question. Sorry. How to be
No, I
involved
think I got
in?
an answer for you on that.
Yeah. Go ahead. So yeah.
And I could actually even cite a U.S. company, somebody like Ferromatic. I
Okay.
want to say it's like Zensurance. I think they're actually based out of Israel originally. But
Um,
telematics combined with fleets.
Fleet. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, like
Jonathan
that's an
Matos.
instance.
Jonathan
Yeah, you
Matos.
could do
Yeah.
something new there. Really cool, and that's a way
Hmm.
to have a wedge, open up a new market,
Nice.
go after something that may be hard to beat without a special tool, so that's a chance to sell something that hasn't been sold yet and kind of open up a new opportunity. Um, yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's
Hmm.
hard to turn over markets. It's hard to beat incumbents. There are people who are great at working off of X mods and fixing workers' comp and going in there and closing claims. That's another way to do it. But there's definitely a few new things that are opening up that we could work on.
In the chat last week, we talked about the MGAs, and
Mm-hmm.
you know what? I will not ask specific question about MGAs because it's a wide, wide
Yeah.
topic. But what your 2 cents about MGAs, especially right now, as an insurance
Um,
agent, of course.
so yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna preface this as an insurance agent who's trying to sell policies day to day, who works with carriers, works with wholesalers. Yeah, I'm not a reinsurer, I'm not an underwriter. I don't stack risks. So this is from my boots on the ground perspective. Um, Trying to sell a lot of different paper, trying to sell a lot of different products that you're less familiar with, I think can be a challenge. Just get anything out the door for all class codes. I think you can get yourself in trouble, especially if you do it a little bit too quickly,
Mhm.
minimal or all automated underwriting. Having specific programs with specific parameters, with specific insurance, reinsurance partners, knowing what and why and how you're doing it is really smart, I think. So just like I can get myself in trouble as an agent, trying to be all things to all people and writing whatever comes through the door. I think MGAs that are a little bit broad in their stance can kind of get themselves in trouble. But if I know a handful of things really well and have the right partners to execute on it, that's awesome. I mean, that's how you tear it up in our industry. Yeah.
You're working right now with MGAs?
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Uh,
I definitely work with MGAs. I work with program managers. I work with carriers. I work with admitted, not admitted carriers. So I touch
mm.
them all. You just can kind of see like there's certain programs and setups where you can just send whatever through, and you're like, I'm not sure that's great for everybody. And then there's other ones that are a little bit more specific, and they have their whys, their levers, their protections in place. And I think long term, that's how I would recommend building, but I'm not in charge of any stuff. I just try to find the customers and translate insurance to life and life to insurance. That's my role, you know.
Oh, just you know what? Let's stay on the insurtech side a bit, and after that, going back to the insurance agent. What
Mhm.
do you think will be the next wave of insurtech, or what is the next solution that we maybe will see? What is the craziest solution that we will see in the future? That the
I
insurance,
don't know about,
but the insurance
yeah.
agents are really needed.
It's interesting, and I have the privilege of being around a couple projects. So I'll have to stay away from a few ideas of things some friends are cooking on.
Okay.
Um, I'm going to shout out my buddy Patrick Kloss with MGV. Um, it's going to be agent driven, I think. InsurTech 6, 7, 8 years ago, InsurTech disrupt. We don't need agents.
Yeah.
I like those companies. I don't want to pick on anybody. They all have seemed to come back around to using people to help move product forward.
You
And
know
I would
what?
always
Sorry,
argue,
sorry to
yeah,
interrupt,
no,
but
you're good. It's good.
you said all the disruption, all the lemonades, said 8 years ago, approximately 8 years ago, that
Yeah.
we don't need agents, we don't need brokers, we don't need agents. We know
Mhm.
to go straight to the customer. And you started your journey in insurance 10 years ago. Okay, so you
Mhm.
as a young insurance agent, what your thoughts was about the new players? So
Candidly, I didn't care because I wasn't protecting anything.
nice.
I could see where the older guys were more defensive or concerned, but for me,
Mhm.
yeah, I would work with the Hippo. I would work with the First Connect. I don't, it's fine. Like if they want to work with me and they want to be helpful and we can move fast, let's go. I
Nice.
wasn't protecting a brokerage that was already built, so it was fine. In terms of them disintermediating or not needing salespeople, I don't think I thought about too critically at the time, but there'll always be early adopters. There'll always be like first movers. Now in hindsight, it makes sense that you can grab 1 to 5 to 10% of the market with kind of good tech tools and marketing. Most people don't want to change. Most people don't want to talk about this stuff. Most people want to talk to somebody when it gets complex. I mean, it's easy to say now insurance always would matter, but there was definitely a spook for a little bit that we are going to get like disintermediated. And I think it mattered. And I did do a podcast or something a while ago with like Coterie and Talage, where I joked about becoming the insurtech monster you're scared of. So we're trying to use all these tools for your own benefit. So instead of worry about automation, like how do you use automation? And how do you become the monster you're scared of? Because I still think it's going to pass through people. I mean, part of all this hanging out with insurtechs is to try to pick up the best knowledge and ideas I can and think like a technology company while having the metrics or the the spend of a small business, and
Nice.
that's really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty smart. So yeah, go back to the original question about the next wave and about how we still need the insurance agents.
So I think our friends Iris are trying really hard with Margot. They're great. We've had a lot of point solutions. I think we're going to be more comprehensive going forward. And I think the Vertifores and the what's it called? Who's the other one? Applied. They tend to gobble up, all these tools. I think they might. It's interesting because they're battling legacy technologies, they're battling legacy infrastructure, but they also consolidated all these different tools and offerings. So I'm curious to see how people can more cohesively tie the CRMs and the marketing tools to the agency management systems to the phone centers that they have. I'm curious to see how this technology sort of integrates. I think that'll be the next move. And I always thought insurtech was going to become insurance. And with the startups kind of getting beat up right now, that knowledge is going to go to the legacy carriers, is going to go back to the traditional side of the house. So I think insurance and insurtech are going to look like the same thing for what we deem it as today in 7 or 8 years. But there's also going to be, AI driven agencies. There's also going to be other things that are going to be unique challenges and players later that people are going to worry about, and then it's going to be fine. It's going to be another cycle, I'm sure. Yeah.
Interesting. And okay. But what kind, okay, you talked about the Gen AI, and of course the AI. We
Yeah.
cannot talk about the elephant in the room. What do you think the agents, how they need to embrace Gen AI? Because you said there's the people, the most of the people don't want any changes, and they are good with what they have, okay, and they don't want or they don't think they need to change their workflow. But right now, you have the Gen AI. It's like must to have in each and every
Mm-hmm.
office, each and every professional. What your point of view about that?
So I'll go real general because there are 2 different projects or conversations that I'm kind of close to that I think
Okay.
sort of circle around AI. Um, when I had my personal lines role at the agency, I can walk down the office and talk to my manager. I'm working from home right now. You saw my cat, you saw the room. Still have a small office that we use too. Um, I think we're getting a brain drain on the industry. People are retiring. I love insurance. Insurance is a happy accident career. I know we joked, and I heard on your podcast with Helen too, that you actually meant to get into insurance, which I think a lot of very smart people do. It's a great opportunity. But it's a hard workforce one to draw people into. So I think with the brain drain, with people still need to meet these needs. We're going to use AI to basically be the person in the corner office or like the research assistant. So it's going to be the person who helps us get answers when we're kind of confused. And it's also going to be the person that gathers the materials that helps us get organized. But I think we're going to still have to put it together. We're still going to have to fix the grammar and the illusions or whatever they are for a while. And they talk about data sets, captive models. I'll shout out Pro Navigator. They have like a database product from Canada. They're coming to the US for like captive knowledge within carriers and within startups. I think more tools like that will be around to where like AI is going to be the institutional knowledge pool. It's going to help connect the dots, because it's an ever changing landscape. It's probably going to change quicker and quicker. I think that's how AI will help us out. It'll basically be the wise person in the corner office and the research assistant, but I think we'll still have to put the final product out the door for a while.
So unfortunately, I must ask you the last question for this episode, but I think we will have more and more episodes together. I hope so, if you would like, of course. So it's invitation for you right now.
Thank you. Yeah, of course. I'd love to. Yeah.
Great. I know that you can talk about it like 45 minutes, but what is your hobbies? What you're doing on your free time? what your esoteric hobbies. I saw the LinkedIn post right now. You spoke. Sorry, I don't remember the name, but about your esoteric hobbies that you can talk about like 45 minutes. So
Yeah, of
like
course.
in a personal way.
So yeah, no, I run. You know, when I was a little kid, I remember my dad saying like the long distance runners were tough. You know, when my older brother was running high school track, I think that left an imprint. But I ran, you know, off and on since junior high. So I embarrassingly trained for a Long Beach marathon, but didn't sign up in time. So I
Wow,
ran one by myself around Orange County, which was funny. But I've also signed up for the LA Marathon March 17th. So I'm training. I cook for us a lot. I
nice.
used to
Cook.
barbecue. Yeah, I think during COVID, I just took up cooking while my wife was in grad school. And I have a little bit of a competitive itch. And there's something about putting together a really good meal or cooking a good meal that feels kind of like sales, kind of like competition. There's a certain pride of product. Um, we have a 2-year-old cat. We just got a kitten. So managing those two and the feeding's the most trivial baby thing of all time. We don't have kids yet, so I can't pretend like that's a thing. Um, I build stuff with my friends, you know, like I'm literally messaging people at night. I'm literally using like send in the morning on emails and Slack messages to not be too much of a maniac. But this is like work smashed up with hobbies. You know, I feel so fortunate to have my little LLC, to have equity in a couple of startups. Um, the guy who I work with at Smart Choices family is very tight in. That's kind of as far as I go on that. But I feel like there should be more of a delineation between work and life, work and play. But to me, it all kind of mashes together in a really fun
Yeah.
way. And I'm kind of stealing that from a quote. I'm thankful to be married and have to cook and get away from the computer. If I was single, I'd probably just be working 16 hours a day. Um, yeah, it's good. It's fun.
So, Brett, thank you very much
Yeah.
for today. And I'm looking forward to the next time.
Yeah, likewise. I mean, always awesome connecting. I'm really glad, InsurTech Twitter brought us together. Yeah.
And of course, everyone that hear us, you can reach Broker Brett in I think every platform. You have a cool
Pretty
website. So
much. Yeah.
yeah, you have a cool website. I will post the link in the comments so you can go direct to the website with a lot of information, with a lot of pretty cut of chase information, not like a
Thank you.
BS. And of course, LinkedIn. So yeah, Twitter.
Yeah, and then reach out to if anyone's curious about the States. I love it. I mean, I helped a Canadian startup get licensed here. Happy to be a resource. Thank you,
Hmm.
Evie. Really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah.
Yeah.
No mention. So thank you very much, Brett. Till next time. Bye bye.